Welcome to another exciting week of LEMD's live educational series. We're thrilled to have you with us tonight to dive into the powerful insights on health and longevity. At LEMD, I say this every week, we're not just here to provide services, we're here to help you thrive, empowering you to live longer, healthier lives. Our mission goes beyond telehealth. It's about education, transformation, and community wellness. Each week, we bring experts straight to you, giving you the tools and knowledge to take control of your health. And tonight, I am so excited to introduce you to Deidre Arms. Deidre is a passionate functional medicine nurse practitioner and co-founder of Desire Wellness Group, where she focuses on proactive and preventative healthcare, right in our wheelhouse. She's dedicated to staying current with the latest research and empowering individuals to take control of their well-being. Deidre is also an advocate for health education and community involvement, striving to inspire balance, vibrant living. And additionally, she leads the Hawking OAAPN chapter and serves as an adjunct faculty member at the Otterbein University, Today, we're going to jump into how to boost your energy and health with NAD. I've been so excited to cover this topic because I get asked so many questions on NAD. So I'm so excited to have you here, Deidre. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here and happy to talk about this. Really, it's a hot topic right now. I was saying earlier before we started that I just come back from a longevity summit where Dr. Mark Hyman spoke. We had a lot of really great keynote speakers and many of them talked about NAD. And I was saying that Dr. Hyman talks about his chronological age this year is 65. He has been using NAD sub-Q for a while now. He's talked about it on many podcasts, but when he tests his telomeres, his biological age is in his 40s. And so it's just fantastic to hear. And I come back and honestly, I started myself as soon as we got back from the conference. I couldn't wait to start.
Well, I like to say aging and longevity, you could slow it down and even reverse it. And we have scientific evidence that proves that we can, on a cellular level, even reverse aging. So let's get started. Let's talk about NAD, or nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. If you could share with us, some people call it NAD, some people call it NAD+. Deidre, can you tell us what is NAD? Yeah, let's start there. Let's just break it down in very, very simple terms. What is NAD?
Yeah, so NAD is a coenzyme. It's critical to your energy production in the cells, right? It's facilitating a reaction in the mitochondria, and the mitochondria is the powerhouse within the cell. So it helps to convert nutrients into ATP, and ATP is basically the energy currency of your cells, if you want to think of it that way. And through cellular respiration and oxidative phosphorylation, that is how it improves energy levels as well. And so we find it in almost, in all of our cells. It's we can help turn the food that we eat into energy is what we're doing. And it can repair your cells and keep them healthy. So NAD is really important for a lot of things. As we age, and I even just watched something recently and looked at some of the studies, but even as young as our late 20s, we get a drastic decline in our NAD levels. So we know that it declines as we age, but I really didn't think about those 20-year-olds declining in NAD. And then it's just a rapid decline, and then it kind of levels out in our fifth and sixth decade of that decline. It drops down compared to when we were teenagers and had quite a bit of NAD. This impacts, though, our metabolic function. So, as we age, metabolic function is an issue. It does help with DNA repair. And it's really how the body combats oxidative stress, right? And this decline that we have with aging really plays into the cognitive decline that we have, our muscle loss, and it reduces our mitochondrial function. So that's when people start to feel very fatigued. I feel like fatigue is one of the number one things that people usually present with, right? You come in and you just have this tiredness, but all of your labs are normal, right? But we're not really testing your NAD when you come to see a traditional provider. So,
Can we just step back a little bit? You touched on this. Why does NAD begin to decline as we get older? And you're saying, no, now we're seeing 20-year-olds, people as young as 20 have lower NAD levels. Why is that? Why are we seeing this? And why does it start to decline as we get older?
so it has to do with our DNA, autophagy, things like that. Um, what I've learned recently has a lot to do with our environmental factors playing into that, what is causing stress on the body. So we'll talk a little bit about stress. But there's so many factors, the foods that we eat, the ultra processed foods that we have, our environment, the skin products we use, everything that is happening around us in our environment is causing these drops and things in this metabolic dysfunction and need for DNA repair.
So by taking or supplementing our NAD, what can we see improve? What are some of the benefits of taking NAD
The
supplement?
list is a little exhaustive, but let's talk
You
about,
want to take it, maybe we take it category by category. I look
yeah,
at,
let's do
let's
that.
let's start with the anti-aging and longevity benefits. So it helps with cellular repair and improve skin health. Can we dive into each one of these categories?
Yes, because those
Longevity.
are some really good ones, right? Because we're enhancing the mitochondrial function, we're improving metabolism, we're supporting our cognitive and DNA repair. But with the anti-aging and longevity, it plays a crucial role in that DNA repair and cellular regeneration. So people may seek therapy because they want to slow down their aging, right? And so this is a great one to add. One of the things that we learned with NAD is adding quercetin, that supplement that we use that's for your allergies. That's what I've always used it for. Like those can be a powerhouse together. So I just want to say that. But it can improve your skin health, and some believe that NAD therapy can improve the skin elasticity and reduce the appearance of wrinkles and your body's supporting kind of the body's natural repair mechanisms.
Okay. All right, good. So those are some of the longevity benefits. Now, can you touched on the cognitive enhancement. What role does NAD play in helping improve memory and helping enhance our as we get older? I mean, shoot, it's even at my age, I could benefit from this, but what role does it play in enhancing
So the,
cognitive
the
function?
cognitive enhancement, that's some of the stuff that's most studied is cognitive and cardiovascular. And so even within 2 weeks, people are starting to see mental clarity with using it. That's not very long. If you think of all the meds you've been given in your life or things that you have tried, 2 weeks is a very short time. And some of those were like 2 to 3 days. People were starting to notice a difference in things. But the studies are showing as soon as 2 weeks, you're going to have benefits from NAD, especially with mental clarity. And it's been shown to enhance the brain's function, memory, focus, concentration, and especially if you're having brain fog. And who isn't having brain fog? I can tell you in a day, all the patients I see, 90% of them will tell me they have brain fog. So it's really a good thing for that. And there's neuroprotection with NAD as well. It's been shown to protect against neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's. There's some great studies on that out there too, and Parkinson's as well. So people with a family history of these conditions, they might want to kind of explore this route for themselves. If you're really into functional medicine, some of the genes that play along with these cognitive things like Alzheimer's is the COMT gene. So if you're a slow methylator of COMT, NAD is going to be beneficial to you. So,
That's incredible. How about ADHD? I mean, I've heard some people say, wow, it's improved my focus significantly. Can anyone who has ADHD or, who
oh,
does,
that would be a yeah, a great thing with ADHD would be to add NAD because you want to have that mental focus and that clarity as well. I also want to add with that making sure you're getting enough zinc and magnesium with ADHD with this would really improve drastically. Like that's kind of a when you think of the things that you need, so NAD plus, your magnesium, your zinc, those are typically what people are depleted in when they have ADHD.
oh, interesting. So this could boost the effects of NAD, and there you go. You could replace Ritalin, perhaps, but
Yeah,
um,
I work with people all the time to decrease their burden of medication, is what we say, and that's one of the meds we try to come off of.
interesting. So you could boost the NAD effects with zinc and magnesium, you're saying.
Well, so the common depletion in people with ADHD of 98% is zinc and magnesium. So you start to give them back that, and then you add the NAD for the mental clarity and everything because it will, you want to improve your NAD and your DNA and inflammation and all of that. So I feel like that's a strong combo to use.
Yeah, and what kind of magnesium? That's a very good question. Citrate, glycinate, which one would you recommend? Um,
So when it comes to like the brain and cognitive, you want to use threonate, magnesium threonate. That's the best one for brain health. So if you're having trouble focusing, that's the one. Citrate is used more if you need, having constipation, that and oxide. Glycinate is really good though for people who have diabetes or metabolic issues, or they just have muscle cramping or something. But if you're really looking to improve mental clarity, magnesium threonate is what I would recommend.
Okay, all right. So we got the longevity and anti-aging benefits. We got cognitive enhancement. Let's talk about energy. How does NAD play a role in our energy levels and helping boost those energy levels?
So remember I said it converts your nutrients into ATP, so that's your energy currency in the cells. So by doing that, you are exchanging energy within the cell there. So it's vital for that ATP production. It fuels the body's energy. People with chronic fatigue and low energy levels really should consider NAD therapy to help restore vitality. So if you've had, you know, I don't know how many of you had like the lull of getting COVID and being sick for like a month after with your energy levels. Think of these chronic or illnesses or viruses that kind of deplete us. This would be a good time, like NAD would be a good thing to add to that to help improve the after you've had an illness like that.
And how about surgery and recovery in that sort of way?
Definitely, yeah. Post illnesses, surgery and recovery, people who've had, you know, recent surgeries or any chronic conditions at all. So just thinking about, and chronic conditions, that's your diabetes, your high blood pressure, your thyroid disorders, your autoimmune. And the list is exhaustive of who would benefit from NAD.
Okay. Now, this was very interesting for me. Addiction recovery. How does NAD play a role in addiction recovery?
Yes. That actually, there's some great studies on NAD and addiction, and I was really looking into that and working with a psych mental health NP on this as well. But substance use detoxes NAD therapies have been used to help people detox from drugs, from alcohol, also to alleviate the withdrawals. I've known a physician here in Ohio that has been doing this for a long time, using NAD to help people recover from addiction and to improve, you know, alleviate those withdrawal symptoms and repair the brain cell damage by addiction. Because if you think about that, when people stop these drugs, and some people will have seizures if they're taking Xanax or have an addiction to that. And basically that's causing inflammation to the brain. And so NAD can really help in that manner. And it can help with people who need mental health support as well. It's also been shown to help people manage stress, anxiety, depression during recovery. So it, these studies look great on addiction. So.
Okay, so we got the anti-aging and longevity benefits, cognitive enhancement, boosting energy levels, addiction recovery. Now let's talk about improved athletic performance and recovery. We've got a lot of athletes here that are interested in this medication. Can you talk to us and touch on that?
Yeah, that was something that was talked a lot about at this conference that I was at, was the improved athletic performance. That was a huge thing. Increases in your endurance and your stamina when you're working out. Athletes may use NAD therapy to enhance physical performance, endurance and stamina, and optimize that cellular energy. And if we're looking at longevity, not only is NAD something that is for longevity, but our workouts and our muscle mass help lengthen our life too, especially as we're increasing that VO2 max. And so you want to have the stamina and you want to have the endurance for those workouts to improve your VO2 max, because hands down, that's one of the number one things to improve longevity, like is your workout and the effectiveness of your workout.
And as we all know, recovery is very, very important, and NAD level depletion is part of that recovery. So you want to boost it back up, and this is a great way. So, and how about, can we touch on the metabolic function and weight loss? Because a lot of us are on GLP-1 medications, whether for longevity benefits or weight loss. Can you touch on how this can be stacked with GLP-1 medications and how it improves weight loss?
Yes, so NAD plays a role in regulating metabolic processes. So people looking to improve their metabolic metabolism or support weight loss can use this to enhance fat burning and overall metabolic function. I looked at some of the studies on like diabetes, and it does help to regulate glucose. So if you think about stacking that with a GLP-1, so most people who are experiencing fatigue or insulin resistance or metabolic dysfunction, so we're seeing insulin resistance. And why does the GLP-1 work for people and why would NAD work for people is what we're trying to do is keep your insulin within this tight range, right? If you stay in range, the longer you're in range, that 80 to 130 range, the more optimal and less risk for cardiovascular disease later. So when we look at what GLP-1 is doing by suppressing appetite, but keeping insulin and glucose in that tight range, and that's what NAD does also, it lowers glucose as well. I just feel like this combo really could be something extremely beneficial. I can't wait to see it 10 years from now, honestly, in diabetes prevention. So.
Can you touch on mood stabilization and mental health? You did briefly talk about that with addiction recovery, but can you talk to us about how NAD can help mood and um, or assist our neurotransmitters in functioning better? Can you touch on that?
Yes. So it's involved in neurotransmitter production. which affects our mood, right? Individuals suffering from depression or anxiety or mood disorders, they may seek therapy to stabilize these emotions. So, in your stress reduction, that's another thing we should talk about. It also is believed to help improve the body's ability to handle stress by boosting the brain health and regulating mood-related hormones such as cortisol.
Did you want to touch on cortisol? I know you're really passionate about it, about the.
It's something that I talk a lot about because I feel like if we don't address stress, everything we're doing, it's like we're fighting against it, right? If you want your therapies to work, no matter what it is you're doing, NAD, semaglutide, taking supplements, deep breathing. If you are not addressing your stress, it's going to take a longer time and it'll be harder to get there. So, and when we talk about stress, it's really cortisol. That's that hormone and the adrenal glands that kicks in with our fight or flight when something happens. But one thing is the body doesn't recognize good stress or bad stress. It only recognizes that it's a stress. So whether you do a HIIT workout or you've wrecked your car, it's stress on the body. So if we chronically have stress, prolonged elevation in our cortisol, it tends to lead to weight gain, visceral fat, which is fat in the midsection around the organs, and that's what we don't want, and insulin resistance, and it can increase inflammation and really have long-term health problems as well. So addressing your stress, helping utilize things like mindfulness, meditation, but NAD is really good for stress reduction as well. So it can boost your brain health and regulate your mood hormones. So I think really just looking at what's best for you, right? We all know what we're willing to do to get better. So.
Thank you. Thank you for mentioning that. So, all right, we've covered anti-aging and longevity benefits of NAD, cognitive enhancement. It helps boost our energy levels. It helps with addiction recovery, improved athletic performance, metabolic function, weight loss. It could help improve our insulin sensitivity. We talked about its benefits on mood stabilization, helping boost our mood. Can you talk to us about how it helps with detoxifying at a cellular level and cleansing our body and that sort of deep cellular cleansing? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so with detoxification support, and you have to understand our burden for toxins in our environment and everything, we're detoxing through our liver. It's the hardest working organ that we have. So detoxification tends to be something that a lot of people struggle with. So when you're using NAD therapy, it can help aid in the process of detoxification. There's actually 3 steps to detoxification in the body. And the first step's pretty easy for us to do. We're really good about that. But think of detoxification as like taking out the garbage. And if we're not doing that properly, then the garbage builds up and it just sets an environment for inflammation in the body, which is chronic conditions. All chronic conditions are a result of inflammation. So looking at NAD for people who are particularly exposed to toxins, in the functional medicine world, we're seeing a huge increase in like mold toxicity and heavy metal toxicity and things. So NAD has been shown to help improve that. And even exposures to toxins and alcohol or drugs like we talked about earlier. And it's thought to have to assist in flushing out those harmful substances from the body at the cellular level. So, and then cellular health, you might want to use it to boost your body's natural detox mechanisms and ensuring that the cells can remove the waste products more efficiently. One of the things that I had learned that would help boost your NAD in addition to supplementing is fasting, and intermittent fasting is a great way to do that because it causes autophagy. And what autophagy is basically clearing out the bad cells. Like we want to get rid of the bad and in with the good. So fasting with supplementing with the NAD will help increase that.
Mm. Do you have a specific protocol around that? Like, do you like to tell people fast and then take NAD, don't eat anything for another hour? Do you have any specific protocols around that?
So when I have people fast, it really has to do with their, it depends on their chronic condition, what I'm telling them to do. And I always say get the advice of your provider. But some of the things that I recommend is to start with a 12-12 fast, like fast for 12 hours. Take your meds and your NAD prior to, you know, eating, and then eat your meal and everything. You want to watch with fasting if you're on insulin, if you're on blood pressure medications, things like that.
And how about if you're on GLP-1s? Do you recommend fasting to your patients or no?
Yeah, no, I do. It's a lot easier to fast on a GLP-1 because it suppresses appetite, suppresses your leptin, which is your hunger hormone. So you have leptin and ghrelin that signal, and we know that people with insulin resistance have basically resistance of leptin. So the GLP-1 medications really help with that leptin resistance at all. And that's something you actually can have drawn in a lab. If you're talking to your provider, they can do a leptin level and see if you're resistant before you start these meds, and then you will know. I used to do it all the time, but now you can, when you talk to people, you kind of can tell of the other labs who's going to have some leptin resistance. You know, if the insulin is elevated, almost always the leptin is. So.
Mm. You touched on this a little bit earlier, but can you touch on NAD's benefits on autoimmune disorders, from lupus to rheumatoid arthritis? Can you touch on how NAD helps with inflammation in the body and also autoimmune disorders?
Yeah, so just kind of connecting that when you have an autoimmune disorder, right? You, for me in this functional medicine space, all autoimmune starts in the gut. So there's a leaky gut component to that as well, right? Which causes a systemic inflammation in the body, right? And it starts to deplete the mitochondria, causing oxidative stress. So we know that NAD gives you that energy through the nutrients and ATP, and is that energy currency for you. And so it's providing energy to the mitochondrial. And for many people, and if there's Hashimoto's patients out there, they know how tired they can feel and how that is for them. That's one of the things I see a lot with people with Hashimoto's is that fatigue. And so they have a decrease in the, ATP and cellular energy. So this would help to improve that.
Mm. And finally, I'd like to go through the ten benefits of NAD. Obviously, the list can go on and on, but mitochondrial health and support. So the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. How does NAD um, help our powerhouse?
So it really, that's a good one, right? How does it help our powerhouse? Because the mitochondria, that energy powerhouse cells, they rely on NAD to kind of carry the electrons during cellular respiration. So the higher the NAD, it means the better energy production, right? Less oxidative damage and more efficient cell function. So that is how, like, there's a connection between NAD and the mitochondria.
Yeah, Deidre, can you touch on because I don't think people quite understand what oxidative stress, what does it lead to? What does it mean when we say oxidative stress? So this mitochondria is putting all these pollutants out. What happens from there? What does that ultimately mean and do?
So oxidative stress on the body equates to chronic disease, basically. I do a test called the Dutch test when I'm doing hormone testing, and it actually, or an organic acid test, those will tell you if you have oxidative stress. So will metabolomics test that looks at your micronutrients and everything. But really, when it comes to oxidative stress, you are not getting enough antioxidants into the body, and you're not getting the energy into the cell. And the result of that, the downstream effect to that later is going to be a chronic condition.
Mhm, mhm. So there you have it. We have all 10. We covered 10 bullet points of key benefits of NAD. Now, can you share with us what's the difference? I mean, we hear Dr. Sinclair and so many people talk about NMN and NMN, and what's the difference between NR, NMN, the B vitamins that you could just take? Why would you want to do NAD supplementation via injection? Maybe you could go into some details around the supplementation form of NAD, what you see over the counter versus what is prescribed. Can you just go into those details a little for us?
Yes, so both NR and NMN are precursors to NAD, but they take different pathways to raise the NAD levels. When you look at the literature, they actually they're really not raising the actual NAD level when you take that. And this is consistent literature showing that and studies showing that it's not getting into the cell like it should to raise the actual level of NAD. They are precursors in the body, but if you're supplementing with it, you're not getting the effects like you would the injection or some people do the IVs even, but those are 4-hour IVs on multiple days. And so most people don't have that time to give. So I feel like the sub-Q IM type injections are really good
Mhm.
way to do that because you can do that at home, right? So
Yeah, we offer the injections and also nasal spray. That's what we offer. But thank you for touching on that because I do see on, Amazon when you search for NAD, there are NAD boosters and you're really not getting the benefit and the effect of it. I mean, once it has to go through the gut lining, you're losing a lot of the benefit right there. And also it's just not as effective. So um, thank you for touching on that. So those are
yeah.
precursors to NAD. What we're offering is the actual final step, in other words, and you're bypassing the gut by injecting it, correct? So you are very passionate about insulin. I know you wanted to touch on that a little bit too. Can you maybe share with us a little about insulin resistance and those insulin spikes that we experience? And
Absolutely.
yeah,
So
NAD helps with that. So you wanted to tie it all in.
yeah, NAD really does help with that. I did want to break something down really quickly when it comes to insulin, right? Just what our normal cells are doing. Because I think people get really confused about what insulin resistance is. And just think of it as the precursor to diabetes. So insulin resistance can happen 10 years before diabetes ever happens. And at that time, that's when the cardiovascular effects start to happen. And so in our normal cell, insulin binds to a receptor site and it opens up your glucose transport and allows glucose to enter the cell, right? And so that glucose and insulin enters the bloodstream and it gives energy to your brain, your liver, your muscles, everything, right? But what happens is we get an abnormal insulin metabolism where the lock and key part of it does not open up the glucose transport and it starts to give us higher levels of glucose and insulin circulating into the cells. And so we have decrease in what's available for our brain and for our liver and for our muscles. And some of the causes of insulin resistance can be our ultra processed foods, it can be inactivity, dietary deficiencies, if you have an elevation in like uric acid levels, chronic stress, that's always a recurring theme. and environmental factors. And some of the symptoms, if you have insulin resistance, is having sugar cravings, feeling fatigued, an elevation in your triglycerides, which is part of your lipid panel, if you have obesity in the abdominal area, if you feel continuously hungry, or you're having difficulty losing weight. And some of the consequences later of insulin resistance is cardiovascular, type 2, your blood pressure imbalances, fatty liver, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, cognitive decline and Alzheimer's, and polycystic ovarian and hormonal imbalances. And so when you look at what NAD can do by helping the cell and reducing the insulin and reducing the blood sugar, it's going to improve this insulin resistance and really help so that we don't get the downstream effect of those chronic conditions. And now what other question did you have? Because now I've
All right. Sorry about that. So, can you also touch on, we had someone ask the question, does NAD help with allergies? Do you get benefits with allergy relief with NAD?
So I'll be honest, I haven't looked into that yet. I've looked more for the metabolic and things, and I haven't used it for allergies, so I can't really speak to that 100% to know.
Okay. How about PCOS? We're getting a question on, does NAD help with PCOS?
Yes, in the manner that I talked about how it improves insulin resistance, it would help with PCOS
Mm.
as well.
How about healing from serious internal injuries? We talked about muscle recovery, but how about internal injuries?
Well, depending on what the internal injury, but the thought is, yes, because you have NAD in all of your cells, right? And so having it to improve your energy production in those cells would help healing. So we know it helps with like post-surgical with illnesses and things. So
How about aches and pains, general joint and muscle pain? Guys, put your questions here. We're asking
yeah,
Deidre all of it. So throw in.
definitely aches and pains, right? Because you're giving the body that exchange of energy into the cells. And a lot of why we have aches and pains is because we're depleted in things. And remember that NAD like decline starts to happen even as young as in your mid 20s, and drastically has this decline. Like when you kind of look at the bar graph, it's just like this straight down, and then between your fifth and sixth decade starts to level out, but it's low. Like a normal like NAD level in teens is between 40 and 100 milliunits, and like we're in the negative. Like as we age, we're in the negative. So it's like we're using our credit card and there's no, like we're racking up the balance, but we don't have a money to pay towards that credit card, right? We're in debt. So
Yeah. Deidre, can you talk about some of the side effects of NAD? We didn't touch on that, but maybe briefly. And who would you not recommend NAD for? So, what are some of the side effects, and who shouldn't take NAD?
so generally NAD is safe, right? And especially when you're using it in the manner that you're talking about with the injections, the nasal spray, things like that. Some of the side effects can be GI symptoms at first. I would say, muscle aching, a little bit of a headache or something. But when you look at long-term side effects, things like that, they're really quickly they resolve very quickly. I guess that's what I'm wanting to say. So individuals who have pre-existing conditions always want to consult your primary care when you're doing things like that. But once you get the okay, the only people I would say not to is, pregnant and breastfeeding. So I always say reserve that for when you're done doing being pregnant and when you're done breastfeeding. But you know, if you're a diabetic and you start to use this, you might want to put on a continuous glucose monitor because your need for insulin and diabetic meds may decrease, should decrease as you're on it. So I think it's a matter of we have this technology to monitor any condition that we have. And so if you talk to your provider and they're like, yeah, go for it, this is what you should do, they recommend it, then monitor like your need for the medications too, because that, very well could decrease.
Mm. And I mean, in general, I like to recommend that people rotate or come off of these medications, any sort of peptide therapy, with exception to GLP-1s. I'm not a doctor, but generally, rotating. What is your recommendation with NAD? Is this something that someone should go on and then come off for some time and then go back on? Or is this something that you find to be safe to stay on for a long time? How long can you stay on NAD? In other words, what do you recommend?
So I've looked at a lot of the studies of how people are using it in the longevity space, and there's not really this hard come off of it type thing. So, and I guess I usually give everything 12 weeks, and then I decide, do I back off a little bit or do I keep going at the same dose? So that's when I kind of relook at everything every 12 weeks to see what I need to do. Maybe, and it's the same with the semaglutide. When we hit our optimum of where we're feeling good, we don't just stop everything, right? We can gradually titrate things down, because if you're eating the right things and you're exercising, you're intermittent fasting, and you are feeling better as a result of what you're doing, then, we don't just stop it. We just come down until it's all you doing it, right?
Mhm.
So.
And maybe uh, you may not know the research of that, but I thought I'd ask, are there benefits to taking it nasal versus injection or vice versa?
So I was looking at that research too. The nasal stuff is starting to come out with a lot more research on it, and it is a good way. So I think it's kind of equal right now, what the research is showing from what I've been finding. So I've had people recently, even this week, ask me about the nasal, and I was like, yes, like the research is showing that is good. So I think it's whatever's best for you, right? Like I could give you the injection, but if you're not going to inject yourself because you're afraid of it, it's not going to work for you, right? So, or if we have lots of people opposed to putting something in their nose. So it just depends, whatever would work for you. Like think about what you realistically are able to do, and then you choose which one. But I would say the research shows very similar.
Mm. On the topic of the benefits of NAD, so we have a product called Synapsin, which is a combination of RG3 and NAD, and it's supposed to help. I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Laval. He's in the peptide space, but he's created this combination for all the cognitive health benefits, and it comes in nasal form. But a lot of people speak extremely highly of the combination of RG3, which is from ginseng. It's a concentrated form of ginseng and mixed with the NAD. So I hear that's a winner. We have someone that asked the question, do you know if NAD is similar to BPC? I think I saw that question. It reminded me of synapsin, but do you know if NAD is similar to BPC? No, they work very different, but maybe you could touch on that a little bit if you do know.
Um, I actually don't know much about BPC.
Yeah.
So,
BPC works in the gut lining from everything I know about it. It works very different, but um, let's see. I'm trying to go through the questions. Does anybody, I mean, Deidre, is there anything else you'd like to add or mention that we haven't gone over? Do we have any other questions? Any final
when,
words from you?
yeah, we went over so much, but I would say if you're looking to optimize health and, you know, our health is like an onion. We're peeling away the layers till we get to the best version of ourselves. I tell patients this all the time. And really, if today you're like, I am so exhausted and I want to try NAD, and you start to feel better, and then you can start to add that layers. I'm going to start my weight training. That'll be my next step. Like, set your goals that are realistic for yourself when you're trying to optimize your health. This longevity space is only going to grow. There's so much research out there. So, like I said, that quercetin, adding it too is good. So there's a lot in this longevity space. So I think you're going to be hearing more and more.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Um, well, if you have we don't have any other questions. I see one more that came in. Is there a difference between having type 1 or type 2 diabetes and the use of NAD? Maybe you could touch on that.
So, with the type 1, because type 1 is autoimmune and you're really insulin dependent, right? Uh, you have a need for insulin. You would really, and most type 1s are wearing a continuous monitor. You are really going to want to monitor your need for how much insulin you have when you're doing NAD. And I would definitely talk to your endocrine or primary care, whoever's helping you to manage the diabetes as well, because you're going to want to titrate that dose because you do not want to get yourself hypoglycemic.
Mm, thank you for touching on that. And then someone else just asked, and we'll leave this at as the final question as we wrap up. But does it help with bone injuries? I have a fractured elbow and it's extremely painful. Will NAD help with bone injuries?
So there was some good information on bone building with NAD. So I would say it is worth a try to use that for that, because there was some webinars and things that I watched. Because when I come back, I just had to keep learning more. I just had to watch more and had to learn more, like what all can it help for, who in my space could I offer this to and talk to about, and bone building was one of them because it can help with osteoporosis and penia as well.
Mm. This is my question. I'm going to ask my question. As with a lot of drugs, there's side effects, and once you come off of the medication, there's a crash period, right? Like for example, with Ritalin or ADHD medication. Does NAD, if you do go on NAD and then you come off of it, do you get any sort of side effects, a depletion in energy or a feeling of being groggy? Have you read anything on that? I haven't
I,
researched.
I actually haven't read anything on that, feeling groggy or anything. I would say, like anything, I never recommend an abrupt stop. If something's working for you, I recommend a gradual. And that's pretty much across the board, even if we're supplementing and feeling great. If we've got you to a place of feeling good, it's a gradual, because we don't want to rock the boat and get you right back where you were. So I would come off slower if you want to try to do that, because if you are able to optimize your body in other ways, and you have started doing other longevity things that help your ATP and energy production, you might not have that bad crash as you start to come off gradually. So,
Mm. That's wonderful. Well, listen, I'm experiencing some jet lag here. I wish I had some NAD right now. I hope you guys enjoyed this segment with Deidre. I think I found it very informative. Thank you so much, Deidre, for your time. And thank you all for joining us and being here. So excited and enthusiastic about learning. And this is it. We have a small community and we educate ourselves, and that's how we make a change in our communities, right? So, thank you all so much for being here. And teacher, thank you for sharing all your knowledge and wisdom and bringing
thank
all the information that you learned at the longevity conference to us and sharing your experience and expertise. Thank you all so much. Thank you.
you're welcome. Thank you.